Constants, a term I use to determine the framework for where the best flavors are brewed for coffee. Now, for example, I keep the grind size constant around the 300 to 400 microns because I think that's where the best flavors are brewed within. The other thing I try to keep constant is my timing. I try to keep it between the 1:30 to the 2-minute mark. And the fact that I want all the grinds to sync, that itself is one of the constants that determine the framework. Today, I wanted to help determine the water temperature and try to find out the best frame for the best flavors. In the past 2 weeks, I've almost been drunk and high off of caffeine. Why, you might ask? It's to test. I've been trying to find a way to find the perfect water temperature to brew our coffees at and to demonstrate and show you guys how I kind of came to that conclusion. Now, what I've been doing is I've been doing cuppings. If you're not familiar with cuppings, cupping is when you have like a cup or a bowl, you add your water in, you add your beans in, you stir it together, and then you let it brew. It's the most raw way to really taste your coffees. Now, what's so special about cupping is you actually take a spoon and you slurp away at the coffee itself. When you slurp, what happens is you get to aerate, and it goes aerates and it turns all the coffee into a mist. The mist then gets to spread over your palate, and you get to taste each particle as it kind of hits your palate. Now, I don't have the best palate, so I'm not the best at this. It took me a lot to practice. And I'm still better at kind of putting a larger amount of liquid into my mouth and then swishing around and holding it there. This allows me to kind of think over it, feel the textures, feel the taste, and then kind of swallow it down. That's personally my preferred way. But I've been doing a lot of this just to find the perfect water temperature. So in my experiment today, I'm going to be doing 3 cups. The main one is going to be a control cup that is 90 degrees without the microfines. And then I'm going to be doing one where it's 90 degrees with the microfines, and then the 100 degrees without the microfines. So the purpose of this test is to know if, first of all, the microfines change the flavors. Obviously last week we did a video on that, and to me it does, but maybe I'm just not so good at extracting things, or it might not be super noticeable in a single dose. Whereas the boiling water is going to determine for me if the 90 degree and the boiling water actually have different flavors when different temperatures are being used. Now, I've always been taught that the 100 degree water creates a stronger or darker flavor. But in my mind, I've always thought that all coffees, because in theory, their chemical compounds are the same, and if water is only extracting the flavors, then technically they should always be extracting the same flavors. So in my mind, I always thought 90 degrees and 100 degree water would actually be brewing the same flavors out. So I kind of wanted to put that to the test. Now for the experiment though, all the beans are going to be the same, like obviously, and then the ratios will all be the same. They're all going to be a 1:10 ratio, so 20 grams of beans to 200 grams of water. I always like stronger coffees, and I always think they taste better, and I get better flavor profiles from them. Maybe it's because I'm not super good at tastings or whatever it is. I like to have that stronger flavor. So something I do that is very different from the traditional cupping method, if you guys are not familiar, cupping is done in these bowls. They're shorter, and the reason why is because we need to be able to use our spoons to kind of reach in and slurp from them. So ideally, if you want to test this at home, you want to have shorter cups and wider ones. This way your spoons can kind of reach into it better. That's why they're called cupping bowls and not cups, I guess. But yeah, so this is the one I use. This is by a brand called Acme, and these are the cupping spoons of my choice. Now, the spoons are a little bit deeper, and they hold a little bit more liquid, even though the circle size is about the same. This allows you to have like that perfect amount of coffee to slurp up. So what I do differently is I actually add the water first into the bowls. Now, the reason being is I think that to some degree, when we pour water into the grounds, the gases or whatever it is that's being released some of that might get caught by the water stream that is floating, that is coming down into it. And that is sometimes what we attribute to like the uneven extraction or the bitters. So instead, what's going to happen is I actually add the water first into the cups, and then I use a paddle to kind of stir everything in. I use a lot of strength to actually stir everything. And the idea is, like I said, when the grounds sink, that's when I think the grounds are, or the coffees are done brewing. So whether you have light, medium, or dark roasts, what I want you guys to do during your test is once you've submerged everything, give it like 5 seconds. Every 5 seconds, you keep stirring it until you start to see the color of the crema turn light. When the crema turns light and the edges start to show a small little coffee rim, that is when you know the majority of your beans have actually sank to the bottom. It's because, I don't know, I just think that's when the beans sink, the crema kind of leaves. And it's always been true when I watch it during a pour over. So you need to stir until that point happens. Once the grounds have kind of submerged and everything, you want to take your cupping spoons and then you just want to scoop away the top. You want to put them together and scoop away the top until you kind of get this very clean top left. Then you remove all the last little bit of particles that are floating and all the crema that's floating, and now you get to slurp away at your coffee. And when you slurp, make sure to slurp hard. To catch all the flavors. Missed it, swivel it in your mouth, whatever it is, swish it in your mouth, and you can do your tastings from there. So from this experiment, I've actually learned a lot. As you let the coffee sit and cool, you'll notice that as it cools, the flavor doesn't really change. So that's actually really interesting to me. That just shows that the water actually has to pass through the grounds for the flavors to extract. And because the coffees are actually very tasty at this state, I actually believe that the coffees are definitely finished brewing when the grounds have sank to the bottom. This is almost proof of it, because cupping, in a sense, you're only tasting flavors when they sink to the bottom. So when everything is released and all the good flavors at the bottom, if our pour overs if during our pour overs, if the beans sink to the bottom, we shouldn't really be brewing anymore. And the cupping itself is proof of it. It's just during pour overs, we have the issue of lifting and having a longer time for the water to extract the flavors out of the beans. In cupping, I can stir and keep all the grounds afloat to replicate that. And that is why, in my opinion, that immersion brewing devices are always going to be better than percolation. It's just percolation has a lot of nitty-picky kind of issues, and that's what allows us to learn the most. And when learning the most, you can actually take all that you've learned to brew the perfect percolation and take all the knowledge you've achieved there and place it back into your immersions and actually create an even better cup of coffee. All the coffees, when I finish stirring, they finish stirring about a minute 30 to a minute 40. So that just means all the flavors are also extracted in around that 1:40 time as well. So this actually is very relevant to my views on the single pour and the relative brewing times. Obviously, in the pour overs, there's going to be a lot of liquids dripping at the beginning, and so there's going to be a lot more of those thinner flavors. But yeah, though that being working together with my vision is actually very interesting. So when it came to the actual flavors of the three of them, like I said before, I am not the best taster out there. 90 degrees and 100 degrees actually tasted the same to me. Maybe in the 100 degrees you could taste a little bit more extraction or a little bit more of the stronger flavors. I could barely notice it. For those of you that would please try this out, please let me know what you guys think. Do you taste it? Make sure to do what I do, and I remove all the microfines. If you can't, I'm going to be looking for different ways to help you remove microfines without any new additional equipment. But when I had the microfines in it, I actually ran this test with just the microfines incorporated. But at different temperatures, I actually noticed a lot of different flavors. So when it came to like 80, 85, 90, 95, and 100, when the microfines are part of the brew, you actually get a lot more noticeably different flavors, and the bitterness or the darker flavors really start to come out. So for you to have a more balanced cup of coffee, I really do believe in removing the microfines. So that is something that I really encourage you to try to do. And obviously, I'm going to help you guys by finding out different methods on how to remove them for you. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Please try this out. Let me know if my tongue sucks. It probably does. I'm not even going to try to deny that. I'm really bad at putting flavor notes onto certain tastes, which is probably why I don't do it for my bags, but I'll also explain that in the next video why I don't. But until the next video, thank you so much for watching. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye!